Our continent has created a unique ethical, moral, and cultural ecosystem that permeates religious, political, economic, and social aspects of our lives as Africans. So this discussion aims to explore how African Christianity and values have shaped various aspects of African society and how these principles continue to influence the continent's growth and transformation. Furthermore, I will delve into some of the challenges we face as Africans in reconciling these values with the demands of modernity and provide some suggestions for leveraging these foundational principles to advance Africa's quest for development, social cohesion, and economic progress. First point, religious dimensions. That is the role of Christianity as Africa's moral compass. African Christianity has played a central role in providing a moral and ethical framework for many African communities. Christianity, introduced through the efforts of missionaries from Europe and how should I call that place? The Barbados and so on. The Caribbean have merged with African spiritual traditions, blending the two in ways that continue to shape the religious landscape today. The rise of African-initiated churches, such as we heard from Apostle Kodia, and we're going to hear from Bishop Ajay, signify ways in which we Africans have made Christianity our own, embedding it with the continent's communal, spiritual, and moral ethos. In Ghana, for example, the role of Christianity in shaping the nation's moral landscape cannot be understated. Churches have become centers not just for spiritual nourishment, but also for social services, education, healthcare. Many Ghanaians view their churches as institutions that uphold moral integrity, justice, and the preservation of social harmony. The Presbyterian Church of Ghana, as one of these churches, has been at the forefront of educational reforms and health services, and its influence extends way beyond Sunday sermons. Christian schools, hospitals, and development initiatives have laid the foundation for both spiritual and intellectual growth. Across Africa, theologians such as John Mbiti, who my brother quoted, famously has stated that, I quote, Africans are now notoriously religious, have highlighted the centrality of religion in African societies. For the African, religion is not just a segment of life, it's life. Christian values such as forgiveness, compassion, and service resonate deeply with traditional African values such as Ubuntu in Southern Africa, which emphasizes humanity's interconnectedness and mutual care. In this way, Christianity has reinforced existing African communal values while providing new frameworks for ethical and spiritual guidance. The influence of Christianity on African values is also reflected in the widespread adoption of Christian teachings on marriage, family life, and community. The African family structure, which values respect for elders, communal responsibility, and the extended family system, has found resonance with Christian doctrines of love, respect, and fidelity. Churches have become key institutions in reinforcing these values through teachings on the importance of marriage, the sanctity of life, and the responsibilities of parents and children to one another. Political dimensions. Christianity and governance in Africa. Christianity has not only shaped Africa's moral landscape, but has also had a profound influence on the continent's political systems and governance structures. Throughout history, African leaders have drawn on Christian principles to guide their leadership and governance. For instance, our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, was educated in a Christian mission school and was influenced by Christian doctrines on social justice, equality, and human dignity. His vision for a united Africa, free from colonial domination, was deeply rooted in the Christian principles of love, unity, and service to the common good. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's vision for a united Africa, free from colonial domination, as I said, was deeply rooted in some of these issues of love, justice, unity. He often spoke of the need for African solidarity, reflecting the Christian concept of agape love, selfless, universal love for humanity. Dr. Nkrumah believed that African nations, like members of a Christian congregation, should come together in mutual support and collective strength, transcending tribal and ethnic boundaries. He famously stated, "Divided we are weak, united Africa could become one of the greatest forces for good in the world." This echoes the Christian principle of unity in diversity, as related in the Bible call for Christians to be one body in Christ, as we read in Romans 12 and verse 5. So our first president's advocacy for Pan-Africanism and political unity mirrored the spiritual belief in the interconnectedness of all people. His idea of service to the common good also reflected Christian values of stewardship and selflessness. So in his book, Conscientism, Dr. Nkrumah emphasized the importance of a just society where wealth is shared, aligning with Christian teachings on social justice and caring for the least privileged. He viewed the fight for independence not only as a political battle, but as a moral and spiritual calling. The church has also played a crucial role in advocating for peace, justice, and good governance across the continent. And Archbishop Desmond Tutu, blessed memory, famously used his platform as a Christian leader to challenge the apartheid regime. His work in leading the Truth and Reconciliation Commission after the fall of apartheid is a prime example of how Christian values such as forgiveness and reconciliation can be applied to national healing and political stability. His leadership provided a framework for addressing the deep divisions within South Africa's society, fostering a sense of collective responsibility for the nation's future. However, while Christian teachings have often promoted ethical leadership, our continent continues to struggle with corruption, ineffective governance, and political instability. In many countries, political leaders who profess the Christian faith engage in practices that contradict the very values they claim to uphold. Corruption remains rampant, with many African leaders prioritizing personal gain over the welfare of their citizens. This moral contradiction poses a significant challenge to the realization of Christian values in African governance and highlights the need for more robust mechanisms to hold leaders accountable. Economic dimensions, Christianity and ethical development. On the economic front, Christianity has shaped Africa's approach to development by promoting values such as diligence, integrity, and stewardship. These values have been integrated into various initiatives aimed at fostering ethical business practices and sustainable development. In Ghana, for example, faith-based organizations such as the Christian Business Forum, as well as the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International, have worked to encourage responsible entrepreneurship by helping business owners incorporate biblical principles into their operations. These efforts are essential in combating the pervasive culture of corruption that hinders economic growth in many African countries. The Christian doctrine of stewardship, which emphasizes the responsible use of resources for the benefit of the community, has also been instrumental in promoting environmental sustainability across the continent. In Zambia, for example, the Catholic Church has spearheaded agricultural projects that aim to lift communities out of poverty while also preserving environmental resources. These initiatives, guided by Christian teachings on care for creation, have had a lasting impact on the economic and environmental well-being of a lot of rural communities. Yet, despite these efforts, Africa still faces significant economic challenges. Poverty remains endemic in many parts of the continent, and the gap between the rich and the poor continues to widen. Many African countries continue to rely heavily on foreign aid and debt, making it difficult to achieve sustainable economic independence. The principles of stewardship and economic justice, though championed by the church, have not fully been realized in practice, posing significant obstacles to the quest for economic transformation. Right here in Ghana, we're grappling with something we call galamsey, illegal mining. No one who cares for creation will find gold the way some of these people are doing. They come to church though and pay their tithes, and so as the body of Christ, we need to find ways in which we go beyond expecting government to find solutions to using Christian principles to let people know that it is actually a slap in the face of God to say you love him and to destroy what he's given for your use and for the use of generations after. When we turn the narrative and not focus just on making money, people will realize that yes, God is one who wants us to have wealth, but not at the expense of his creation, because his creation is meant to support generations after us. This is something that we have to couch in such a way, and we are the only ones who can do it. The people of God are the only ones who can couch it that way and help those who run governments to deal with it. We need to take steps to make sure that the principles of stewardship and economic justice are fully embedded in our faith. Social dimensions, Christianity and community development. Christianity has also had a profound impact on social development on our continent, particularly in areas of education, health, and social justice. A lot of prestigious educational institutions were established by Christian missionaries who saw education as a means of not only spreading the gospel, but also empowering individuals and communities. These institutions, and you can name a lot in Ghana, these institutions have produced many of Africa's political, economic, and intellectual leaders, highlighting the transformative power of Christian values in shaping the continent's future. In addition to education, Christian organizations have played a key role in addressing social challenges such as poverty, disease, and inequality. Faith-based organizations, World Vision, Compassion International, Caris International, have been at the forefront of humanitarian efforts across our continent, providing essential services to vulnerable populations and advocating for social justice. These organizations, guided by Christian teachings on compassion, solidarity, care for the poor, have made significant contributions to improving the lives of millions of Africans. However, Africa continues to face significant social challenges. High levels of unemployment, particularly among young people, have led to increased levels of crime, drug abuse, and social unrest. While Christian organizations have provided some support in the form of vocational training and youth development programs, more comprehensive and sustainable solutions are needed to address the root causes of these issues. In many cases, the church's response to social challenges has been reactive rather than proactive, highlighting the need for more strategic engagements with these issues. Now, we know that Christian values such as love, compassion, integrity, justice, forgiveness, humility and service, and stewardship are so critical. And yet, we find that we are still grappling with making some of these values become part of our lifestyle. So what are some of the challenges facing us? While African Christianity has made significant contributions to the continent's development, several challenges still face us. One, I've mentioned corruption, and I will not bedevil it, but it is as real as the air we breathe. And unless we infuse the values of integrity together with social justice and love, many people will still think of themselves first, their family second, everybody else last. Wealth, inequality, and poverty hangs on the same thread. There's no way African Christianity can promote Western individualism. It just ought not to make sense. Because Africa, as Africans, we are communal. And our faith is also communal. How come then that we have become individualistic, which is something which is totally alien to our society. It means that in imbibing some of the values from other countries, we are actually belittling our own and accepting what is coming from other places as better than ours. Youth unemployment. You know, in Africa, we used to have a lot of children because there was always work for them to do. You were running a farm and you had a lot of children. You take them to the farm. But you know what the Europeans have started talking about? Child labor. Yeah. You know, not apprenticeship. Yeah, not apprenticeship, but child labor. Meanwhile, they raise their children on the farms. They raise their children on the farms because they live on the farms. They go to the farms with their children. But no, Africa does it and it's wrong. Unfortunately, as people of faith, we have not been loud enough to defend the fact that you prepare your children to take over what you're doing by getting them to learn as you do it. If we did, all these things about youth unemployment would not be as drastic as we're facing now. Which comes to secularism and cultural tensions. As Africa so-called modernizes, there's increasing tension between traditional values, Christian teachings, and secularism. I still maintain that if the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, there is no dichotomy between spirituality and secularism. Life is spiritual, but expresses itself often in doing things that don't seem spiritual, which we call secular. So conflicts still face a lot of us, and we struggle to reconcile faith with the demands of modern society. Moral decline. The spread of materialism and the erosion of traditional moral values pose a significant threat to the integration of Christian ethics into daily living. Many African societies are grappling with moral decay, where individualism and consumerism overshadow the communal ethos that both Christianity and African values promote. Let me venture some recommendations. Given these challenges, there are several steps that can be taken to ensure that African Christianity and values continue to play a transformative role in the continent's transformation and development. I make 5 points. First, promoting ethical leadership and governance. Africa's political leaders must be held to higher standards of accountability, drawing on Christian values of integrity, honesty, and service to the common good. The church, in partnership with civil society, must advocate more strongly for transparent governance and the equitable distribution of resources. African Christianity must challenge the status quo of corruption and nepotism by encouraging the emergence of ethical leaders who prioritize the well-being of their citizens. I must admit, the Church of Pentecost held a conference. Was it in last year? The conference, was it last year? Africa, the moral, or was it 22? I think 22. It was last year? No. All right, we shan't debate that. So we also need to promote peace. There's no way our continent will develop when we are so fractured. When we're made to believe that we are enemies of each other because some colonial powers decided to cut us up like a piece of cake. You know, we still are sticking so much to the divisions that they have brought us. I'm glad that the Church of Pentecost is spreading to all these countries. If nothing at all, one of the things that we ought to promote is the fact that we are one continent, one people, with resources to make the world better. But it will be impossible if we are not united. Number 2, addressing economic inequality through Christian stewardship. African churches and Christian organizations must continue to advocate for economic justice, particularly in addressing poverty and wealth inequality. Churches should encourage responsible business practices and promote initiatives that empower individuals economically by fostering the principles of stewardship and fairness. The church can help bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. This can be easily done because every Sunday, all our churches are filled to capacity. And if we used even 5 minutes to advocate the power of transformation that we have through Jesus Christ, people would leave with a different mindset. Number 3, investing in youth development and education. We have a young population, and we need to invest in their education, in their skills development, and leadership if we want a continent that will play a major role in world events. If by 2050 there will be more Christians in Africa than the rest of the world, then we must change the mindset of the world in the way things get done. We, using our traditional values together with Christian values, will show the world what it means to care for one another. Number 4, strengthening social cohesion through the church. One of the core values of African Christianity is community. Churches can play a vital role in fostering social cohesion by bringing people together across ethnic, cultural, and class divides. The values of Ubuntu and Christian fellowship ought to help us to heal the divisions and build stronger, more inclusive communities. When Apostle Dr. Kodia was speaking, he would mention several churches, even if the total numbers were not that large, because Church of Pentecost has always believed in smaller churches so that you get to know one another, support one another. Yes, mega church is not in the vocabulary of the Church of Pentecost. So there will be no need to have a 10,000 member church. There's no way you can reach to people when you have such large-scale churches. And I think that this is something we can learn from the Church of Pentecost. Because I need to know you as someone I go to church with. I need to know your name. I should be able to, after church, stand and chat with you. But if there are 10,000 of us, can you imagine? Even as a great auntie, by the time I go around, it will be the next time to go to service. We need to make a difference. God is giving us the opportunity to be where He's always wanted us to be. The way we reach the world has to be different from the way the world has reached us. And if there's anything we ought to do, it is to use the love and forgiveness of God to show the rest of the world that, yes, you haven't treated us well, but we are better than you are. We will treat you well because we consider that you are humans like us. My last point is encouraging moral renewal and integrity. We must address the growing moral challenges facing our continent, particularly the rise of materialism, individualism, and moral decay. We do have a responsibility to speak out against the erosion of traditional values and to promote a return to ethical living, both in personal conduct and in public life. I think we will be able to do this as we reach out to our chiefs here in Ghana, because they are supposed to be the custodians of morality and community. Now that we are making them know that the institution of chieftaincy is not against God's wishes, they can begin to play that role of ensuring that the moral fiber of the nation also rests on their shoulders. And the combination of Christ-likeness and the African traditional values of making sure that the community is held together will make a lot of difference. In conclusion, African Christianity and the values it embodies continue to play a pivotal role in shaping religious, political, economic, and social life of the continent, from Ghana to South Africa, from Gambia to Ethiopia. Christian teachings on love, justice, and compassion have provided a moral compass, guiding them through times of crises and change. However, we cannot overlook the challenges we are facing now, and the work of the church is far from complete. By promoting ethical and servant leadership, addressing economic inequality, investing in youth development, fostering social cohesion, and encouraging moral renewal, African Christianity can be the true force for Africa's change, and that of a world that is eating itself up because it does not consider the human being as one who alone will reflect God's glory here on earth. Thank you.